Did any of you guys ever grow up thinking that the world was a positive place?
I was neutral to it. I don't know what's happening most of the time.
Yeah, that's the
I
real
didn't even
question.
know I went to the USA until like a while.
Yeah, you're just kind of walking around one day and you're one place, and you're walking around the next day and you're someplace else, but you don't think much of it, probably. You know, we say that, like, you know, little kids, they just think everything is perfect and rainbows. I don't know if little kids believe that.
It's just
I think little kids just aren't aware. And so, I mean, if you ask them, like, is the world a cruel place? I guess it depends on when you get a hold of them. You know, if you get a kid who's having a meltdown, you know, a toddler is having a meltdown because you won't let them eat their shoe, like I saw happen a few weeks ago. That really happened. I watched this little kid just lose his mind at my gym. He's walking around, he was like pumping his fists and everything. His name is Maximiliano. And they call him Max. And I'm like, no, he's too dignified of a toddler to just call him Max. His name is Maximiliano. And so I'm asking him what's going on, and he can't even talk. He's just crying so much. He's walking around, he's like going to his mom, then she hugs him, he runs away from her, and he throws himself on the ground, he gets back up, and the whole time he's able to maintain this really high level of screaming across multiple rooms at the gym. And then I asked his mom, what's he losing it over? And she says, I won't let him eat his shoe. That's all it was. She wouldn't let him put the shoe in his mouth and start chewing. If I asked him at that point, is the world a cruel, horrible place, he probably would have said yes. But one of the great things about toddlers, when he finally finishes, 30 seconds later, he's doing cartwheels and having fun. Is the world a great place? Yes, I can imagine nothing better than this place. So I just don't know if we're little kids, if we ever really think about it. It's just that by the time we mature to the point that we do start looking around and thinking about it, we think that it's a terrible place, because what stands out to us for the most part is the negativity. But of course, as we mature more, we start to realize, oh, it's not just the negativity. The negativity is the easy stuff to find. In fact, it's almost an expression of narcissism that makes it difficult for us to see the positive stuff, because we almost expect the world to be perfect. Like, we expect when we come into a room that when we flip a switch that the lights turn on, and we expect that when we walk out to our cars, we won't have flat tires. We expect that there won't be traffic jams, so that when any of those things are off just a little bit, when our day isn't as perfectly smooth as it could be, that's when we start to notice the negativity. Yeah. How do you learn when you face the unknown? I guess the question is, what do you learn? What else do you learn? You do learn something else, by the way, when you encounter the unknown. So yeah, it's true, you learn, like if you don't know what's in a closet, if you walk in there and you flip on the switch, you do learn what's in the closet now. But you've also learned something else. Yeah.
And they said, like, oh, if you are, like, you always have all A's or 4.0, you take your classes, don't expect that at the College of Engineering. Because there you are going to fail, but that is how you learn there. Because you fail, but you try again.
So in the case of like going to a school of engineering and you fail some efforts, what else do you learn? Because there's something really important that you learn that we don't think about a lot of times.
I guess we...
Yeah, and so you learn, multiple, avenues for coming to an answer, but there's also something else that you learn. And if you're paying attention, everybody in here is, at this very second, is getting better at something. Whether you realize it or not, you are getting better at something. In a lot of cases, it's a tragedy that you're getting better in what you're doing right now. In some cases, it's an absolute triumph. But if you're paying attention, you're learning more than just what other people's opinions are. You're learning more than just what Jung says about something. You're learning about your ability to encounter difficulties and persevere. A lot of people, man, I'll tell you, I always go back to that thing from Nietzsche where he says, what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. And we post that, and we say it, we sing it in a song. And yet, I shake my head and I think, yeah, that's true for Nietzsche. He was right when he said that. What doesn't kill me makes me stronger. And he demonstrated that in his life. But most of us who sing it don't really demonstrate it in our lives. In other words, at this very moment right now, people will look at the quote and go, in fact, months ago, people looked months ago, people looked at a quote and said, I don't get it. And they went and did something else. What you practiced was quitting. And my guess is that's probably not your first time quitting. You probably have a long history of quitting in your background. You probably have been raised with a deep, rich tradition of quitting and giving up. And I say that and people get really upset with me. And then I was asked the question, where's the lie though in what I just said? If I looked over your history, is it a history of perseverance, of failing but keep trying, failing but keep trying until you finally succeed? Or is it a lot of, read the words on the page, I don't get it. Tell me what it means, do this for me. No, I won't do it for you, practice it. Oh, never mind then, I'll wait till they talk about it. And then when we do talk about it, we don't do anything with it. My guess is there's probably a long, rich tradition of failure. We were looking at the numbers recently. The percentage of students who are failing one class, really, really low. If you're failing one class, you're not just failing one class. Overwhelmingly, it's like 70% of students who fail one class are actually failing 3 classes. In other words, you either have 3 or none. That seems to be the dividing line. And I think, like, how do you possibly fail that much and yet still manage to wake up in the morning and look yourself in the eye and say that you're going to stack cash, or that you can even have the audacity to dream about things? I mean, really, like, how could you possibly have the audacity to dream? I don't just say, I don't mean like to have the daring to dream. I mean, how could you possibly be serious looking at yourself and saying, I've got some skill set that is going to emerge? Well, what is it? It's not just about, can you figure these things out? Of course not. Like I said before, it isn't about if you get the right answer. It's about, are you giving it an effort? I believe if you try, and you try, that eventually you'll get better at it, of course, naturally. But it's what happens with most people is we try, we fail, and then we go and do something else. And yet that's tragic, because I would imagine that whatever dreams you have, whatever ambitions you have, at least a desire for in some basic way, is going to be on the other side of a lot of effort, on the other side of a lot of fulfilling of responsibility, on the other side of a lot of challenges. Because if something was easy, everyone would do it. But the things that are easy, most people don't want those things. How difficult is it to get a job at a fast food place? Yeah, and there's a reason that when you go to a fast food place, you get the kind of service. I mean, go down to the McDonald's, and what service do you get at the McDonald's? I was at a McDonald's last weekend. It's a little later in the evening, and there were a few of us in the lobby. And I was listening. I mean, there were a lot of people working there, though, man. And I heard so many F words from the employees. I thought it was my classroom. It was unreal. And I guess it made sense, because it turns out that one of the people working there goes here. He recognized me. He looks at me and he goes, "So I'm sorry." He says, "Are you a teacher?" And I always get the same answer. No. You don't teach high school? No. I get that a lot, though. I have to look like somebody. It's Mr. Bennett, right? That's who I look like? No.
Oh my gosh.
That's why I always say, 'cause I have no idea who this guy is, but I've heard I look like him. And they always say, no, it's a teacher over at a high school in National City. I'm like, oh no. Because I never know if someone has control over my food. Is that somebody who I got along with or not? I want to make sure first. But my point is just that it took a while to get the food, and the employees were, I was about to say they were trying. I don't think they were even trying. Okay? Now, there's a reason I walk out of that place and just go, not for myself, of course, but for the fact that I sit there and go, is this why prices have tripled? So I can get that kind of service. Now, if I go to In-N-Out, what kind of service do I get? What kind of consistency do I get? What kind of product do I get? And there's a reason for it, man. There's a reason for it. Because you go to an In-N-Out, they'll run short-handed before they'll hire incompetent people. And if you prove yourself to be incompetent, then they get rid of you. They don't keep you around. And McDonald's, they just want to get at least this one particular McDonald's, they just want to get bodies in the door. They just get somebody there who can hand you a tray of food. And then they're going to be happy with that. But what do you get for that? You get whatever it is that that you accept and then you tolerate. And if you tolerate and accept failure in your life, then of course that's what you're going to get. And I don't say this because I think it's going to be a revelation to anybody. I think everybody knows exactly this, and you've probably heard it your whole lives. But at the very least, you could never say no one's ever told you. Yeah.
Do you like somebody that listens to Taylor Swift? Yes or no?
Do I?
Would you like be friends with somebody that would play Taylor Swift
Yeah.
at 10 in the morning?
Yeah. I would never play Taylor Swift at 8, 10 in the morning.
He would, like,
Yeah. Not my thing. I can hear it. I can see why people like it. But, I mean, it's vapid. It's vacuous. Karma's my boyfriend. Are you kidding me? Other than the lyrics, I just go, huh. All right, well, it's catchy anyway. That's a great story. Could you email that to me?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, because I want to be able to read it, and I mean, the way you tell it, it's just like, I feel like I'm there. You know, it's just the richness of the detail. I feel like I'm living that experience. You don't need to tell me, just email it to me. When people say I'm sarcastic, that's like the one example you'll find. But you don't become enlightened by imagining a figure of light. Like, you know, like in other words, we say like you just have to envision yourself, and you have to kind of speak to the universe who you want to be, and then you just like positive reinforce it, you become that thing. That just isn't true, man. It's a facade, it's fake. You present yourself this way. And by the way, I know people who do this whole power of positive thinking, and these are some of the most jacked up individuals in the world, man. And you can hear it in the tone when they talk about it. Well, you know what? I'm going to breathe now, take a minute now, and they'll speak in jargon. They'll talk about how the universe is just directing me to. That puts everything outside of yourself. And if you think that the universe is in charge of your life, it's directing your life, well, then why on earth would you ever try? Now, I'm thinking of somebody I know particularly who's constantly posting about how they speak things to the universe, and then these things happen. Yeah, and not to be a jerk, but the things that are happening, they're not difficult things. You know, like they were talking about how they got a job. I won't say too much about it. They got this one particular job, and I just thought, all the love in the world, but I mean, a shaved monkey could get that job. And I'd be willing to test that, by the way. If you give me 6 months to train a monkey, I think that a shaved monkey could get that job. And this person was very excited about, which it's fine. It's a job, and that's cool, and you're providing for your children without the father. But what you're not doing is actually elevating yourself. What you're doing is you're putting everything outside of yourself. If I get this one job, it's because the universe willed it for me. Not because you worked hard. Because if that's the case, then that means you don't really have to work hard. That means the universe will take care of it, right? And if you really believe that, you're not going to go well, man. No, but every time I envision it, it happens. Where's your CEO-ship? Where's your company? Where are all these things that you talk about dreaming of? Where's the manifestation of all of this stuff? You know, what you'll find, you don't become enlightened. You don't learn about yourself just by imagining yourself as some kind of like a figure of light, but by making the darkness conscious, by going into the darkness, as you guys are saying, and then making the unconscious conscious. Because until you make the unconscious conscious, you're going to do what you've always done, and then you're going to call it fate. The way that you become conscious is you figure out again, why am I the way that I am? That's reflection, and that's hard. This person said something to me, and why did that bother me so much? And this person called me short. Why did that bother me so much? I am short. So why would that have bothered me so much? It was just a description. Yeah, but they meant it as an insult. So why does it bother you that they meant it as an insult? Well, because it's on the other side of that reflection, because that you get your answers. So now you start to find out, because I feel so little about myself that insults sting particularly hard. And that doesn't mean that you're a good person. It doesn't mean you're a bad person either. It's just understanding who you are. Because once you understand who you are, now you can start to figure out how you're going to respond in situations. Again, the story I told earlier during the lockdown, I didn't know how those students were going to respond. They were very sure of themselves, and when they first said, "We got your back," I literally just want to go, "Thanks, but don't worry about it." Why? Because if they're going to jump in, but they're really not down, then they become a liability. They're in the way now. They're not going to be a help at all. And so I can, I don't know how they're going to be. Maybe they did know how they're going to be. Maybe they were sure about this. Or maybe it was just three guys who were all talking about doing it, and then they were all kind of keeping each other accountable because nobody wanted to back out once they were all lined up. We're going to go? We're going to go. Okay, because I'm going to go. If you're going to go, then let's go. You know what I mean? They encourage each other. And there's something to be said for that. But a lot of times you don't know who you're going to be until you encounter life, until you end up in experiences. And that's why we should be careful about the judgments that we cast on people. Particularly, I mean, we oftentimes complain about our parents. Oh, when I'm a parent, I'm not going to do what they did. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
You're kind of like your parents' traits.
Yeah. That doesn't mean you're going to do everything that they did, but it does mean you're going to do some of them. And you might become, and even if you don't do what they did, then maybe you're going to be more understanding of it. And that's why there's a lot to be said for empathy. Because you find out how you're going to respond. How are you going to respond when someone punches you in the face? I think everybody should get punched in the face a couple times in their life. Because you find out some things about yourself. First off, what you find, it doesn't usually hurt as much as you think it's going to hurt. And then once you realize it doesn't hurt as much as I thought it was going to hurt, now you realize that you can take 2, 3, 10 punches. I wouldn't recommend it. There's brain damage to be considered. But I wouldn't, but the point is just that that's one less thing now to be worried about, because you've not only, if you've never been punched in the face before, going back to what you were saying, now you've encountered the actual experience itself, so now you know what it's like, but moreover, now you know how you're going to respond in that kind of a situation. So you've learned about the situation, and you learned about yourself, if we're paying attention, because you're always, always, always constantly revealing who you are. If you're paying attention to it, you're learning. And then how do you change yourself? You change your behavior. And so what that means is, like for example, going back to the readings from the beginning, if early in your life you may have been traumatized by something, but that doesn't mean that you have to be the person who always responds from trauma. Because now, for example, the story I told about my friend who got bitten in the face by a chihuahua when he was little, now when he encounters the chihuahua and he panics a little bit, he can calm himself and say, the me that's responding right now is 2-year-old me. There's nothing to be afraid of. There, 2-year-old me could have been afraid of it. But, when we have our friends, 18-year-old me has no reason to be afraid of this chihuahua. You can kneel down, chihuahua's going to jump at you, maybe peck you a little bit, but that doesn't mean you have to behave as a traumatized person, because now you become aware of it. Now you've taken the unconscious, you've made it conscious, and now you can consciously respond and become a different person through your actions. That's why I was asking that question earlier, who are you? How do you know who you are? In other words, are you you're a collection of psychological states over time? True. You're also a collection of actions. This is also true. The way that you do it is you gotta make the unconscious conscious. You gotta make the darkness conscious. So there's something to be said. Accept yourself. That doesn't mean love me for who I am. No, it means, oh my gosh, I'm this basket of neuroticism. Like, for example, one of the reasons that people fail so much is because they don't have the belief enough in themselves. They lack self-esteem. They believe that they really are failures. And they believe that really is the best that they can possibly achieve. Even if, and they'll mask it a lot of times. Like, I'm not even trying, who cares? You do. That's why you have to respond to it. And that's gonna follow you around. But once you recognize that and go, I am a basket of neuroticism. I'm insecure. I'm fearful. But I'm a pretty good dancer. And I can, eat a whole steak in under 30 seconds. Whatever. In other words, to accept the totality of who you are. Take the parts you like. Fix the parts that you don't. But it takes an acceptance of yourself. You have to accept this is who I am. That doesn't mean you say, this is just who I am, and you work, and then you walk through life as that traumatized self. What it means is that you accept who you are so that you cannot respond as your old traumatized self. Not to respond as 2-year-old you, or 5-year-old you, or 10-year-old you, but instead as 18-year-old you, 25-year-old you, 40-year-old you, and so forth. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints?
You brought this to